everyone, this is Gina, and today I'm going to show you how to make this multiple row right angle weave. Now this is what it looks like if you don't embellish it, and I give you the option not to embellish it. Of course, you can just make your multiple row right angle weave and learn how to make it, and then I decided just to do an embellishment down the end. Now when I show you basic stitches, I promised from the beginning that I would actually make a piece of jewelry with that basic stitch so that you would have a project at the end. Show you how to actually finish it. This one I actually embellished. So you'll learn multiple row right angle weave, and then you'll learn how to make a project out of it. Now with multiple row right angle weave, you can also do this kind of stitch and this kind of stitch, which I just did on my other channel, Gina's Gem Creations. And a couple of people from this channel had said they just did not know how to do the multiple row right angle weave, and this was too hard for them. So I've done it all in one color so that you can learn how to do the stitch. And once you learn how to do that stitch, then you can do things like this, because all this is, it's the basic stitch. It's just a change of color and bead styles and colors. That's all it is. So I've used some crystals and some 11/0 and 8/0 seed beads to embellish, and all it is the same exact stitch. But you can make all kinds of pretty things once you learn the stitch. So that's why I'm doing this one. And let me put this on and show you what it looks like on the wrist. Turns out really pretty. This is about a 7.5 inch bracelet that I show you how to make. You can adjust your length, of course, and I will discuss how to do that during the video. Here is the clasping. This is what the bracelet looks like. And you can also make a choker just like this if you want to. Just the exact same thing. And just when you put on your clasping, you can just use a lobster claw and a little piece of chain so that it's adjustable. And make, of course, the length longer so it goes around your neck. But this is your basic right angle weave. Let's go ahead and look at what we need. I started out, when I show you the list, materials, I was going to use this color bead for my embellishment, but it didn't show up. So I changed at a later point in the video to the red. So when you see that I have the pink in the material list, that will change as the video goes on. So go ahead and get your stuff ready and let's do this. Okay. For this project, you're going to need 4mm round beads. Now, you can use this in a bigger bead also if you would like to. It's going to make a bigger bracelet if you do, but the same pattern will work with most any size or shape of bead. So I'm just going to use a 4mm round. This is a really light, dusty pink. It doesn't even look pink, but it is. And then if you would like to embellish at the end, I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to be using some 3x4 or 4x3, whichever, rondel crystals. These are just little Chinese crystals. And I will be using some 11/0 seed beads with that embellishment. I will also need a few for my clasping, and a couple 8/0 seed beads also for the clasping, and a toggle clasp. So that's what we're going to be using. We will also need some thread, of course. I'm going to be using 8-pound Nanofil. You can use 10-pound Nanofil. You can use 6 or 8-pound Fireline. All of that will work. I'm going to be using a size 10 beading needle, and I have threaded onto my needle about a yard of thread. Now you will need to extend your Fireline during this project or your Nanofil, and I will more than likely include how to extend at the end of the video, because we will need to put the clasping on, and I don't like to leave a long tail. So if you want to learn at the end of the video, that's great. If not, there is a video on this channel called Threading Beading Needle and Adding Thread to a Project. That's video number 4 on this channel, and if you want to watch that, you can do that too. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so this is just your very basic multiple row right angle weave. Every unit we make will have 4 beads in it. So we will start with 4 beads onto a needle. Let's get a little closer. Maybe arrange my camera a little. And we will take these 4 beads and bring them down to the end of our thread. Now, If you do not want to extend your thread at the end for your clasping, then you will want to leave a 12 to 14 inch tail just so you have plenty of room to do your clasping. Otherwise, just leave 3-4 inches, something like that. I've got probably 5 inches, 4 or 5 inches. Leave that and we will extend. So then after you've put your 4 beads on and you're at the end of your line, take your needle and go up through the very first bead that you put on your thread and draw your working thread through and draw these into a circle just like this. Now we're just going to sew back through this. This is our first unit of right angle weave. And we're going to sew through it, knot it, and secure it so that it doesn't fall apart as we make multiple units. So I've just gone into the next bead, and as we do this, we'll tighten the unit back up. It'll loosen as you do this, so don't worry about it too much. Just kind of give a little tug after you go through each bead. And now I am through all the beads except for the very top one. This is where my tail thread and my working thread meet, and I am going to take my tail thread and my working thread and I'm just going to cross them and bring the tail through the loop and bring down a knot and just pull it tight like so. And that's going to secure it so it doesn't slip around anymore on your thread as you make your units. So now this is going to be my top bead right next to where my tail is coming out. So I know this is going to be the top of my project. I can reference that by knowing where my tail is. We have to sew to this side bead. So this is the top bead, this is the bottom bead, and this is the inside side bead. And that's the bead we're going to sew into to start our next unit. So we're coming out here. We need to go through this top bead here. And just hold on to your unit as you do it. And then go down through this inside side bead right here. Now each unit of right angle weave has 4 beads in it. So we have this bead here. This is the first bead of our next unit. It is the last bead of our first unit and the first bead of our next unit. So if we have 1 bead and our units are all 4 beads, we pick up 3 beads. And we go into the opposite side that our thread is coming out of. So just go into that and pull the beads down. And now you have another unit. Now with right angle weave, doing 1 thread, if you do not secure the entire unit, it's just a mess. So I always sew through the entire unit. Now we know this is our connecting bead, so we have to sew all the way around and back into that bead, and then we'll sew over to our next outside bead here so that we can add our next unit. So let's sew through this entire unit, and as you do it, hold it between your thumb and finger, give a tug, and then go into the next bead. And this is how you're going to establish your tension. If you do not hold on to it, you can't really establish good tension. Then go into the next one, and this particular pattern needs really good tension. Now I'm going back into the connecting bead. Now I'm going to build out this way. We're going to make 3 rows of right angle weave. So we need to travel over to this bead to make our next unit. And then we'll have the start of our 3 rows. So we're going to go into this bottom bead here, give a tug, and then go into this outside bead right here and give a tug. And now we're going to pick up 3 more beads because we're sharing 1 bead right here. So we are going to go back into the bead we're coming out of on the opposite side from which we're coming out. Just like so. Pull your thread through and bring your beads down. And now you have an entire unit. So we have to sew through the unit back to the connecting bead. This is the bead we're coming out of right now. That's our connecting bead. So we will sew through the top bead. I'm trying not to turn this piece so it doesn't get confusing for you. And then this outside one here, and then this bottom one here, and then back through the connecting bead. Now we're connected. Let's get even a little closer. We have to sew down because now we have to build down. This is the width of our piece. Now we have to make the length start to grow. So instead of sewing over to this outside bead and adding another unit, we're going to sew down to this bottom bead and add a unit here so that we can work our way back over. So sew through the top bead, and then through the side bead, and then through the bottom bead right here. This point now, your beads that you pick up will be 3, 2, 2. And that will help you a lot as you watch the next few steps. So we have one bead we're connecting to. We need 4 beads all together. So we're going to pick up 3 beads. And we're going to go back through the bead we're coming out of. So now that bottom bead of this unit has become the top bead of this unit. Now we have to sew all the way around and come back through that bead that we've connected to. So let me see if I can do this without turning my piece too much. Yeah, I'm sorry guys, I have to turn it a little bit. I'm going to go through this side bead here, and I just place my fingers over and give it a tug, and then I'm just going to sew all the way around until I get back into the bead that I first connected this unit to, right here. Now, this is where it confuses most people. Now, you can see your pattern here. You have one full unit. If you look over, you will see in this center unit, you've already got 2 beads available for your next unit. So what we have to do is we have to sew down, we're in this top connecting bead, we have to sew down into this bead so that we can add 2 more beads to these 2 beads, and then we'll have a full unit. So when you're coming out, you will go down into this bead here, so you're in your connecting bead, go down into this bead, pick up 2 more beads, and then you'll come up into this bead here. So you have 2 on your unit, up into this bead. Once you come through this bead, you will have all of your beads of your unit. Problem is, we are not connected to our connecting bead right here. So now we have to go down into that bead to complete the entire unit. So we're going to go down into here, pull, and now we're completely connected. However, we need to sew all the way back around to this connecting bead so that it is secure. So we're just going to go through this bead here, and then through this bead here. And I know I'm holding my fingers over it, but if I do not, then I just pull my beads all out of whack. So you need to hold on to it as you pull your thread through each time. Now we're going to go back into the connecting bead. And now we're building this way, and we're way over here in this connecting bead. We have to make our way over here so that we can make our next unit. And in this one, we also have 2 beads. So you can see a full unit here, and there's 2 beads that start the next unit here. So we just have to complete it. So we will sew over here. We're coming out towards the bottom of our bead here, so we have to go into this bottom bead here. And we have to go into this connecting bead here. Now this bead will connect our next unit. So we have to come up, we're coming up out of this bead, so we have to go into this one first before we add our 2. So we'll go into this bead, and now we have 2 beads of our final unit on our row here. So we just need to pick up 2. and go into the bead we started in. So you're coming out of this bead, you don't want to go back into that bead, you want to go into this bead right here. This is our connecting bead. So go into this one, and you now have a full unit of right angle weave. So now we have to sew all the way back around to this connecting bead to secure it. So I'm just going to go through this one. You could sew around and stop at the bead that you need to start your next unit in. However, when you do that, it's just not quite strong enough. Holding these beads together really well with an extra passive thread through it makes a big difference in your piece. It makes a difference in the strength and the appearance of it. So just go ahead and do it. Now I'm back in my connecting bead here. And now I need to sew all the way around from this into this bead, and come out this bead so I can make my next unit. So when we do our next row, when we start a new row, it is 3 beads, and then the next 2 units are 2 beads each that we add. So I'm just sewing around until I get to the bottom here, right here. I'm going to go through it. Maybe, there we go. And now I have 1 bead to work out of. So I pick up 3 beads, and I go back into the opposite side of the bead from which I'm coming out. And then I just pull these down, and I have my first full unit for my next row. And sew back all the way around them until I get back into the bead I connected to. I just give a little tug as I go through each bead to make sure they're nice and tight. And now I just sew down into this inside bead. I'm coming out of this connecting bead, but I know I need to work this way, so I have to go down into the inside bead right here. So I go down into it, and now if you look at it, you can see that this bead and this bead with 2 more added will make a full unit. So we're coming out towards the bottom, so we pick up our beads first and then go into the top bead here. And then we have to go into the bead we started in because we're not connected there yet. These 3 are connected, all this way is connected, but not here. So we go back down into that bead. Excuse me. Here. So I've come back into this bead here. Now I just need to sew around the entire unit. So I'll just sew through all of these beads. And then now I'm in my connecting bead here. I need to sew all the way over to this bead here so that I can make my next unit. So I'm going to sew down into this one and come out into this one on this side. And then we will add beads to this unit over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to sew into this one and then sew into this one. Okay, so we're coming out of this bead right here now. We've made this complete unit. Now we need to make a unit here. Our needle is coming out towards the top of the work, so towards the top of the bead. So when it's coming out towards the top of the bead, you know you need to connect to the existing unit above it in the next row. So I'm coming out here. I'm going to go into the bead right here. And now I have 2 beads ready for my next unit. So that means I need to pick up 2 more. So I'm going to pick up 2. And then go into this connecting bead here. So we went up into this one and we're coming out of this one, but this is the original bead we connected to. So we have to go into it right there. That's the bead we started in. Like so. Now we're just going to sew back through the unit until we get back to our original bead that we started in. And that way this unit will be secure. And now I am back in the bead I started in. However, I need to start a new row, so I need to sew all the way down to this bottom bead so I can start a new row here. So let's go down into the top bead here, down into the side bead here, and then into the bottom bead. Basically, all you're doing when you do this is adding the beads that you need to complete a unit. We've got 1 bead here, we're going to pick up 3. It's always 3, 2, 2, each new row. Back into the bead that we're coming out of, like so. And then I'm just going to turn this a little so I can secure it. And straighten it back out for you. And now I've made my entire unit here. So now I need to make a unit in the middle here. I need to go down into this inside bead here because you can see the 2 beads that need to be connected. So I'm going down into this connection bead. Now last time when our bead was going up as we were coming into our connection bead, we had to connect to the bead above. Because we're coming out towards the bottom of our piece here and there's nothing here, we need to pick up 2. So we're going to pick up 2. So if you're coming out of the bead towards the top, you're going to connect into the next bead on the next unit. If you're coming out of the bottom, you're going to pick up 2 beads. So pick up 2 beads and go through the bottom bead in the above unit, like so. Now we have to connect here. So we're all connected all the way around except for right here. So we're going to connect back into that original unit. And then I'm going to sew around my unit to secure it. So I'm back in my connecting bead. I have to sew all the way over here so that I can connect my next 2 beads and make my next unit. So now I'm going to sew down into this one. Ouch, poked myself. And then up into this one, right here. And now my needle is coming out towards the top of my bead, towards the body of my work. So that means I have to go into the bottom bead of the next unit on the top. So I'm going to go into this bead right here. And then I pick up my 2 beads that is needed to complete this unit. Pick up 2, and then go into this bead over here. Now you're coming out of this one because you had to go into it first, but this is your original connecting bead here. So you're going to go into it right there. And then as you pull these around, you've got a full unit, except you are not connected here. Well, yes you are. We did that already, but let's go ahead and sew all the way around the entire unit. And now I'm back in my connecting bead. So I'm going to sew down to this bead here so I can start my next row. We'll do one more row together, and then I'll explain what you need to do to make a bracelet. So I've sewn all the way around this unit. Let me get it straightened out so you can see where I am, and I'm coming out of this bottom bead right here. So we are starting a new row. Every time you start a new row, you pick up 3 beads. And then go into the opposite side of the bead that you started in. And sew around your unit. And I hope securing it doesn't confuse you. However, if you don't, it just doesn't look good and it doesn't wear well. So there's no point in showing you how to do a stitch that isn't actually going to work later. Now I've sewn all the way around to my connecting bead. I need to sew down into the side bead so that I can build to the side here. Now I'm going to use this bead and this bead, so I need to add the beads along the bottom. I'm coming out of the bottom of this bead, so I will pick up 2 beads first. And then I will go into this top bead here, pull my beads in, and then I have to connect to my connecting bead right there. And then I will just sew around my unit. Until I get to my connecting bead. Crossed my thread, sorry, hang on. And now I made my connecting bead, so I'm completely secured. Now I need to just sew down into this bead and over to this bead so that I can make my last unit. So I'm going to sew through the bottom bead, through the side bead, and now I'm coming out towards the top of my bead. So if you're holding it this way with it towards your body, this is the top of your bead. So you know that you have to connect to the next unit bottom bead, right there. And then you will pick up your 2 beads to complete your unit. Go into your connecting bead. You're coming out of this bead, but you're going to go into this bead because that is your connecting bead. And now sew through it. And hopefully by now you can see the pattern established on how that you get each unit for your row. Now I'm completely around and I'm sewing my way back down to the bottom bead because I need to start a new row. And you're always going to start from the bottom bead, and you're always going to pick up 3 beads first. You're going to make your unit here, and then you're going to make your unit here by adding 2 beads and make your unit here by adding 2 beads. You will know when you have to add your beads by which way your needle is coming out of your bead. If your needle's coming out this way, then you will pick up your beads first. If it's coming up towards the top, then you will need to connect into the next unit bottom bead. So the upper unit, bottom bead. So continue making your units. Continue making a strip of right angle weave like this until you're an inch short of the bracelet length you would like. So if you want a 7-inch bracelet, go for 6 inches. And I will show you exactly how many units I have made when I come back. You count your units by counting the little holes in the middle here. So like there's a little square box here. You will count those. And that's how you'll know how many units. And I will tell you how many I make. But For reference, just go 1 inch short of the actual length you want your bracelet to be. Continue making your right angle weave and we'll be back. Okay, so I have decided to go ahead and show you how to extend your Fireline during this piece because it is really thready and I've already run out of thread. So you can see that here's my short thread. I've taken my needle off of it and I've cut another long piece of thread. Now I'm going to get you really close because it's hard to see this white thread. So I'm going to take the piece the piece of thread on my piece of work, and I'm going to put my new thread underneath it, just like so. And then I'm going to take the piece of thread on my piece of jewelry, and I'm going to wrap it underneath the new piece of thread, like so. Just crisscross it over. And then I'm going to take both pieces, and I'm going to crisscross them. So this is my new long piece, this is my tail piece off my piece of jewelry, and I'm just crossing them, see? So I've got them crossed here, I've got them crossed here, and then I'm going to take this short piece off my piece of jewelry and cross it under, like so. I'm just tying a square knot. Then I'm going to pull, let me see if I can get you even closer so you can see this. I'm going to pull the two threads, so my working thread and my tail thread. I'm going to pull them and they are going to form a little tiny square knot, just like so. And then I'm going to take both of these ends. It's better if you can get closer to your piece, but I was trying to show you. That way you don't have to pull the knot that you're going to form through your beads that much. But I'm close enough, it'll be okay. Then I just take both pieces and I cut them very short, close to my knot, like so. And then I take a lighter, and at the bottom of the flame of the lighter I am going to just put my thread close to it, and it will kind of melt back and form a little blob on the thread. So I'm just going to very lightly form a little tiny blob. See that little blob? You can do this with your thread burner too if you'd like. Just form a little blob at the end of the thread, like so. Then you're just going to take your two threads again. Here's the one that's coming off my piece. Here's the new one I'm adding. And you're just going to pull them until those two blobs that you made form one knot, like so. This is incredibly strong. It's not going to break. It's small enough to pass through your beads as long as you keep your blobs very small. And this is one of the easiest, fastest ways to add thread to your project. So from this point, you can just put your needle on your new thread that you added and continue sewing. Okay, so I have made 25 rows. You can just count, like I said before, 1, 2, 3, or you can just count the very last bead sticking out on the edge. And 25 rows with 4mm round beads makes exactly a 6-inch length, right at 6 inches. So I want mine to be right around 7 inches, maybe even a tiny bit over. You could do one more little row to make sure. But I think with the clasping that I'm going to use, I'm going to get right around a 7-inch bracelet. So I'm going to show you how to finish your bracelet off now. Since you've learned how to do the stitch, we're going to go ahead and turn it into an actual piece of jewelry. So I am coming out right here, right out of this last bead. I've sewed around, secured it, come out after I made this last unit. And now to finish it, I'm going to pick up an 8/0 seed bead, and I'm going to go from this pearl to this pearl right here. And then I'm going to pick up another 8/0 seed bead. This is just going to stabilize my end a little bit. Pick up another 8/0 and then go into the next pearl. Now I want to sew around this unit so that I can come through my top row again. So I'm going to sew around this unit. I'm going to go into this side bead here. I'm coming out of the top row right there. Turn it this way. I'm just going to sew through here. and then sew through here. So I'm just going around that first unit of right angle weave, and then I need to sew into this top bead between the two 8/0s. And then I'm going to sew down into this bead that starts my very last unit here. So I'm going to go down into this one, and then I'm going to sew around this unit until I come back up through the top here. So I'm going to go into this bead, and then I'm going to go into this bead here, and then I am going to go into this bead, this 8/0, this bead, and this 8/0, and just exit. Now I'm going to pick up 3 11/0 seed beads, or do I need 3? Maybe 3, and an 8/0, like so, and I'm going to drop this down. That's what you should have, 3 8/0s in, or 3 11/0s and an 8/0, and then I'm going to pick up my clasp, and I'm going to go through my clasp. Let me see, maybe I want to just do 2. Yeah, I think maybe I'll just do 2. This might be a little too dangly. So let me just back up. Sorry about that. But I tend to design my clasping on video, and so sometimes I have to back myself up. So just pick up 2 11/0s after you come out of this 8/0 and an 8/0 seed bead. And then pick up your clasp. Go through your clasp, like so. And then go through the 8/0 seed bead and just the 8/0, like so. Hold on to that 8/0 with your thumb and your finger and pull your thread through it. And pull your clasp down to the 8/0 seed bead, and then pick up 2 11/0 seed beads. And go into the outside of this 8/0 seed bead and the pearl, and the other 8/0 if you can get through, like so. Well, come here. There we go. So go through the 8/0, the pearl, and the 8/0. Pull these 2 11/0s down, like so. And that's what your clasp should look like. Now we have to sew through this a couple of times to secure it. So we're coming out of this 8/0 seed bead right here. I'm going to turn it this way so I can get to it. We're going to sew into these 2 11/0s, into the 8/0, and into the clasp. Then we're going to go into the 8/0 seed bead, down into the 2 11/0s here, like so. Then I'm going to go into this 8/0 right here, and then into my pearl also. And then I'll go back into this 8/0. Now we want to do this 1 or 2 more times, however many you feel it takes to secure your clasp. So go ahead and sew back through just like I just did 1 or 2 more times, and then we'll be right back. Okay, so I went through mine 2 more times. I'm coming out of these 11/0 seed beads right here after coming through and securing it the last time. Now I'm going to go into this 8/0 and then just into the pearl here and exit. So you just into the 8/0 on the side you're coming out of, into the pearl, exit. Now I have decided to go ahead and put an embellishment down the center row just to give it a little bit of oomph. If you don't want to do that, then what you will do now is you will just extend your Fireline on this end if you didn't leave a long tail, like I showed you earlier in the video. Show you how to extend it, and then do exactly the same thing. You'll be coming out of this pearl, you'll just have to sew around until you can come over to this side and sew through, put your 8/0s, and put your clasping on. So just follow your units. So you're coming out here, you'll go down to here, 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 up here, here, down here, 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 and then you'll put in your 8/0s. And then you'll sew through and put on your clasp, just like you did on this end. However, if you want to put the embellishment on like I am going to do, then you don't have to do that, because we will just use the length of thread. I have a pretty long piece of working thread left to do the embellishment, and then when we get down here we will go ahead and do our clasping. So now we're coming out of this purl right here, and we are going to start our embellishments. I had originally picked out some very light pink crystal rondelles that I showed you in the beginning, and I have decided not to use those. I started putting them on for this tutorial and you just can't see them. So I've changed to a dark red, so that you can actually see them better, because this is kind of a powder pink color and the pink just blended right in. So what you're going to do to start your embellishment, you can use a bicone crystal, you can use a fire polish bead, you can use another pearl, whatever you'd like, or you can use the 3x4 rondelles. Pick up an 11/0, a rondelle, or whatever you're using, and a 11/0. We're coming out of this pearl right here. Let me get you closer. Whoops, that's further. Coming out of this pearl right here on this side, we are going to find, this is the entire unit here, we're going to find the opposite bead in the unit of 4. So straight across from it, the bead that you're coming out of, you're going to go into the opposite side. So you're coming out here, you're going to go into this side with your needle and your 11/0 crystal 11/0. So I'm going to go into this crystal, or this pearl right here, and pull my crystal down. And you can see that a lot better. So that's what that'll look like. Then you're just going to pick up another 11/0 crystal 11/0, and now you're coming out of this side here. You're going to find the opposite pearl in the unit right here, straight down the center of the piece, and we're going to go into the opposite side that we're coming out of this pearl. So we're coming out here, we're going in here, and we're going to pull this embellishment down. Make sure you don't tangle on the other one, like so. And then let's do that one more time. Pick up an 11/0, a crystal, and an 11/0. I'm coming out of the bead on this side. I'm going to go into this bead on this side right here and pull this embellishment down. And I'm just going to continue doing that all the way along the entire length, down the middle strip of the entire bracelet. And then when we have done that, all the way to the end, show you one more here. We're just going to continue working all the way down to the very end. When we have done that, we will be back and I will show you how to clasp your end. Okay, so as you can see, I've finished my entire embellishment all the way to the very last pearl in my right angle weave units. Now, you've got your tail here. If you were not to make the embellishment, you would use that for your clasping. But since we have made the embellishments and I still have a lot of thread, we will use the working thread to go ahead and put on the clasping. So if you need to, as you get towards your the end of your right angle weave, just make sure that you have a very long tail. If you do not have a very long tail as you're making your last couple units of right angle weave, then go ahead and extend it so that you have plenty of thread to put on your clasping, do all of your embellishments, and then put your clasping on this end. So it's not important to reserve a tail. You still want some, because we're going to sew this back in so that it doesn't fall apart on this end. But you don't have to reserve a really long tail if you do the embellishments this way and do the clasping the way I'm about to show you. So what we're going to do now is we're going to bring this down so you can see what I'm doing. I'm coming out of this bead right here. Now, I need to get over to this bead, and I need to be coming back the direction towards the center of my piece so that I can put in my 8/0 seed beads. We're just going to ignore this tail. We'll move it out of our way as we sew around. So I'm going to go down into this bead here. I'm coming out of this one. I'm going to go down into this one. And this is where we're going to secure our embellishments. So make sure you give a nice little tug as you come through that first bead. And all of your embellishments are very tight and nice looking. Then we're coming out of this bead. Now we're going to go into this bead right here. And we're working in the unit with the tail here. So if you're working on the other side, if you happen to do your embellishments opposite or something, that's okay. You won't have to worry about the tail. Now I'm going to wrap the tail around my finger like so, just to get it out of my way. Come into this side bead. I'm coming out here. I'm going to come in here. Right there. Pull tight. Wrap the tail around my finger again, and then go into this top bead right here. Like so. Now I'm going to pick up an 8/0 seed bead, and I'm going to go into the next top purl right there. Pull my 8/0 down, pick up an 8/0 seed bead, go into the next top purl. Now I need to sew back around so I can get over here and do my embellishments again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew through this bead here. Then I'm going to sew through this one right here, right underneath that bead I'm coming out of. I'm going to sew into this bead right here, right on the inside bead here, right next to my embellishment. And then I'm going to sew into this middle bead here, right between the 8/0 seed beads. I'm just following my original path, not letting my thread cross any of the intersections here, just following the original path, turning corners. So you turn down. Now I'm coming out here, I'm going to go into this bead. Because if you just sew from one bead to the next without following your original thread path, you're going to have thread between your units and it's not going to look good. So then we have to turn into this bead here. Just follow your original units. I'm doing this slowly so you can follow me. Come up through this bead here. And then we can go through the top beads all the way to the opposite side. So we're going to go through this bead, the 8/0, this bead, and this 8/0. Right here. And exit. Now we are going to pick up two 11/0 seed beads and an 8/0 and drop it down. And then we are going to pick up the end of our clasp. Or not the end of our clasp, our other clasp end, I guess. And then into the 8/0. Pull the clasp down to the 8/0. Then pick up two 11/0 seed beads and go into this 8/0 on this side, and through the purl, and through the 8/0 on the other side, like so. Pull it down.
As a noun, down is usually defined as soft, fine feathers or, alternatively, American.
Alexa, stop.
Complete.
Sorry, guys. Every now and then Alexa hears what I'm saying and she answers and she makes me about jump out of my chair. I apologize. Okay, through here. So we're going to come back through the entire unit we just made for our clasping, up through the 8/0, up through the clasp, back down into the 8/0. Give a little tug to tighten that up. Go through these two 11/0s here. Down into the 8/0, the purl, and the 8/0. And then I want you to do that one more time, at least one, maybe two. Sew up through your clasping. Oops, I hope I was in camera. Just sew around the beads exactly like we put them on. And go ahead and do that one more time. Then we'll be back. We'll come back and we will tie this off and sew our little tail through and get rid of it too. Okay, so I have secured my clasping one more time. And I'm coming out of this 8/0 seed bead here after going through this 8/0, this purl, and this 8/0 to finish my securing stitch. Now I'm going to go into this purl here. And I'm going to grab this thread bridge right between these two purls. You can see this piece of thread here. Bring your needle underneath it. Make a little loop and go through that loop. Now as you pull down, direct it and make sure your knot goes down on that thread bridge right there. Now we're going to go into the next bead. And here. And then we're just going to sew through this unit here. So we're going to go turn the corner here, go into this one. I'm going to do this slowly so you can see what I'm doing and follow me. I'm going to go up into this one and get caught on my embellishment here. And I'm going to tie another knot right here. So I'm going to go underneath that thread between those two purls, pull my thread until it becomes a loop, go through the loop, and guide my thread down between those two beads, and then sew through a couple more beads and cut my thread off. Over here and here. It's following my original thread path. Never go into a bead across from where you're at. Always turn, because if you go across, these little openings are going to be filled with a piece of thread and it's not going to look good. Now, I'm here. I'm just going to, you can continue sewing and knotting as much as you want. I'm going to cut off right here. Leave a little bit, a tag of my thread. And then I'm going to burn that down. I'm going to bring it to the back of my piece though. And I'm just going to get my lighter close to it, not light it on fire, just roll it down like so. And now we still have this little piece of thread here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my needle on my tail here. If you did not use it to put your clasping on, if you did it the same way I did it, then you need to sew this in. So you're going to put your needle back on it. Like so. And then mine isn't very long, so I'm just going to go down into this bead here. I'm going to go underneath the thread bridge right here, pull it into a loop, see if I have enough thread here, and pull a knot. And since my thread is so short, I'm just going to go ahead and cut it off and burn it down. You could go around the unit if your thread is longer. You can sew a knot like we did on the other side as many times as you want. But this is going to be secure enough because we did tie a knot in the beginning and it is entwined through the piece as we wove it. So it should be okay. And let me back off. This is what we just created, a very classic, very pretty piece of jewelry that can be worn every day or to special occasions, whatever. Let me see how this is going to fit me now. That's what that looks like. And this is my toggle. Just argued with me a little bit, but it's on. And this is really very good length, and it's very pretty. It works out fine for me. It's probably, I'll measure it, but it's probably a little over 7 inches. I'll measure it and show you, but my wrist is 6.5 inches, and it has a little bit of give, a little bit of movement, which I like, but it's not falling into my palm or anything. And look how very pretty and classic that is. Just gorgeous. And you can also do a longer one of these and make it as a choker. To match it, it would be perfect. Just make it the same exact way, even with the toggle, and just put it on the back. Or you can put a lobster claw clasp and a little extender chain so that you can adjust the length of the choker. But it would work fine for a choker too. Let me get this off again. And let's measure it. So when you measure this, you put this halfway on the 1 inch mark here. So it's right at 7.5 inches. Let's see. Yeah, right at 7.5 inches. Let me fix my toggle here. There. Okay. Yep. And so that, my friends, is what that looks like. And of course, to change your length, you just do more or less units of right angle weave. Just make enough right angle weave to where you're maybe an inch and a half short of where you want to be. And that's how you do that. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Bye-bye.